Good afternoon, everyone. And we are discussing about the description of an angiospermic plant. Description of angiospermic plant. Angiospermic plant description. Today, date 11/9/2020. Yesterday, while we were discussing about this angiospermic plant or plant of an angiosperm, and we have discussed about this angiospermic plant is mainly divided into two parts. One is an underground root system, and second one is aerial shoot system. Underground root system and the aerial shoot system. We have been discussing about this aerial root system, and here in this aerial root system we have discussed several characters in this aerial shoot system. Here, aerial shoot system we have not yet completed. We have not yet completed about this aerial shoot system. Here, the shoot system bears branches, leaves, flowers, and also fruits, as I told you yesterday. And we have discussed about a flower or a structure of flower or several characters of flowers of this angiospermic plant. And here, this angiospermic plant, leaves are present, and the arrangement of leaves discussed completed about the flower. Now let us see about the leaves and the arrangement of leaves on the stems, that is called phyllotaxy. It's called phyllotaxy. Phyllotaxy. What do you mean by phyllotaxy? Means arrangement of leaves, arrangement of leaves on a stem. Arrangement of leaves on stem. There are three types of phyllotaxy. Opposite phyllotaxy, for example, this is the branch, here this is leaf, and that is called opposite phyllotaxy. And this is the stem, the leaf is like this, that is called alternate phyllotaxy. And this is alternate phyllotaxy. And this is the leaf, this side, and for a stem, 4 size leaves are there. That is called whorl phyllotaxy. And you don't think about these types of phyllotaxy. Just try to remember what is phyllotaxy. Phyllotaxy means the arrangement of leaves on the stem, that is called phyllotaxy. And the types of phyllotaxy will be discussed under your syllabus. While we start your syllabus, I will discuss deeply about these types of phyllotaxy. Next, as I told you yesterday, and in female reproductive part, in female reproductive part, and this is the stigma, style, and this is the ovary. This is the ovary, and inside this ovary, ovules are present. Inside this ovary, ovules are present, and this arrangement of ovules within the ovary, that is called placentation. And one more thing you have to remember: first, phyllotaxy, arrangement of leaves, phyllotaxy, and the arrangement of ovules within the ovary, that is called placentation. Second one, you have to remember: placentation. Placentation. What do you mean by placentation? Here, the arrangement of ovules. The arrangement of ovules within the ovary. The ovary is called placentation. There are 5 types of placentation that will come under your syllabus, and just try to remember what is this phyllotaxy, and second one, placentation. Next, one more thing you have to remember: inflorescence. 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 What is inflorescence means? Here, the arrangement of flowers on the stem or floral axis. Arrangement of flowers. Arrangement of flowers on floral axis. Floral axis. This is called inflorescence. There are 2 types of inflorescence: cymose inflorescence and racemose inflorescence. Let us see diagrammatically or a rough diagram of this inflorescence. And here, this is the stem, and this type of arrangement of flowers, this is called cymose inflorescence. And if the flowers are arranged at the top of the stem, this is called racemose inflorescence. 2 types of inflorescence that will come under your syllabus, and let us discuss deeply about these types of inflorescence, types of placentation, types of phyllotaxy in your syllabus. But basically, as you know, it is a bridge course, hence you have to remember only the outline, that means only definition of this phyllotaxy, placentation, and inflorescence. Now, after describing these types of, now let us move on to pollination. The flowering plant shows pollination, and as I told you, angiosperm means flowering plants. The angiosperms means flowering plants, and there is one more name of angiosperms, that is called phanerogams. I told you already, phanerogams. Phanerogams. Nothing but angiosperms. Angiosperms. Angiosperms, nothing but phanerogams. What are phanerogams? I told you yesterday. Here, flowering plants are called as, or the plants which produces flowers. Plants which are able to produce flowers, which are able to produce flowers. Plants which are able to produce flowers are phanerogams. And there is one more kind of plants, the plants which does not produce flowers, and those are called cryptogams. What are they? They are called cryptogams. They are called cryptogams. The flowers which does not produce any kind of flower, or the plants which does not produce any kind of flowers, and those plants are called as cryptogams. The plants which does not produce any flowers, the flowers which does not produce any flowers, and they are called as cryptogams. These are the two kinds of plants. And the angiosperms, nothing but phanerogams. Phanerogams, what is the definition of phanerogams means? So the plants which are able to produce flowers are called phanerogams, and the plants which does not produce any kind of flowers, and those are called as cryptogams. Now let us move on to concept of pollination. In angiosperms, there is one more thing occurs, that is called pollination. Let us see briefly about the concept of pollination, and shortly about this concept of pollination. Concept of pollination. Concept of pollination in angiosperms. What is pollination means? The transfer of pollen grains. The definition of pollination. Pollination means the transfer of pollen grains from the transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma. Anther to stigma for the purpose of fertilization, and that is called as pollination. And now this pollination basically of two types. The pollination is basically of two types. What are the basic types of pollination? And number one, self-pollination. 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 Definition of self-pollination looks like the pollination. Here, the transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma of the same flower, that is called as self-pollination. Here, the transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma of same flower is called self-pollination. For example, now let us see, this is the plant which bears this is the flower, this is the stigma, and this is the anther. Here, in self-pollination, the transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of same flower. This is anther, and this is a stigma. Yesterday we saw the diagrammatic view of a typical angiospermic plant or flower. And here, the pollen grains from this anther to stigma of the same flower, that is called self-pollination. The transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of the same flower, that is called self-pollination. You observe clearly, this is one single flower. In this single flower, this is stigma and these are two anthers. And the pollen grains from this anther are traveling to this stigma, same flower, and this kind of pollination occurring in a single flower, that is called as self-pollination. Now let us see second one, cross pollination. Yeah, second one, cross pollination. Cross pollination. Here in this cross pollination, the transfer of pollen grains from pollen grains from anther of one flower to stigma of another flower. Stigma of another flower. Stigma of another flower. And that is called as a cross pollination. Self pollination within the flower, cross pollination different flowers. Pollination occurs between different flowers. That is called cross pollination. Let us see a diagram or a simple rough diagram of this cross pollination. For example, this is a and with bees. This is the flower, and this is the stigma, and this is anther, and this is anther, and here one more flower is there, and here this stigma, this is anther, and this is another anther, and the transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma of different flowers. Here, the transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma of different flowers, and that is called as a cross pollination. Transfer of pollen grains from anther of one flower to the stigma of another flower. That is called cross pollination. For example, this is the stigma. And the pollen grains are coming from this flower, another flower, different flower. The pollen grains are coming from different flower, and this kind of pollination is called as a cross pollination. It is called cross pollination. Here, about this cross pollination, we have already seen this is self pollination, and the pollination transfer of pollen grains occurring within the same flower. And here, the transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of another flower, and that is called as cross pollination. And these are the two kinds of types of pollination. These are the basic types of pollination. And next one, see, there are different agents of pollination are there. And most probably, what are the agents of pollination? Most probably wind, water, and air, mainly agents of pollination. Means which helps for the process of pollination, and the medium which helps for the process of pollination, for transfer of pollen grains. What are the things which help for this pollination? Those are called the agents. They are mainly wind, water, and insects. These are the things mainly, and other animals are also there. Animals are also there, and these are all etc. These are all called as agents of pollination. These are all called agents of pollination. Next, after this pollination, what happens? The pollen grains come from anther to stigma, and then they enter into the ovary, and the fertilization process occurs. And what happens next? Here, you see, this is the flower, stigma, and these are anthers. The pollen grains come from this anther to stigma, and those pollen grains reach into the ovary, which is present at the basal part of the flower. And these pollen grains come to the ovary, and then what happens after reaching these pollen grains to the ovary? What happens here? What happens here? The fertilization process occurs. What happens? Fertilization. Okay, flower is a flower. Okay, it is having male reproductive part and female reproductive organs. Male reproductive organs, the anthers, and female reproductive organs. So, gynoecium means androecium and gynoecium are present. This is gynoecium and this is androecium. And what is the purpose of this presence of male reproductive parts and female reproductive parts, or male reproductive organs and female reproductive organs? For the purpose of fertilization only, these male and female reproductive organs are present in the flower. For the purpose means fertilization. How the fertilization occurs means here, before fertilization, there is a need for the transport of the pollen grain to the female reproductive part. Here, male reproductive cells are to be transported to the female reproductive organ. And here, the male reproductive cells, that means pollen grains, are transported to the female reproductive organ or to the stigma by any kind of agent. They are transported. It is not over after transporting. There should be another important process should be occur. And what is that important process that should be occur is fertilization process should be occurred. Fertilization process should be occurred after the transport of these pollen grains. Now let us see the fertilization process. Now let us see fertilization process. Fertilization. We discuss briefly while we are discussing syllabus, but this is a bridge course. We have to discuss the outline. As per the rules I am going. And here, fertilization means the fusion of both male and female gametes to form a zygote. Yeah, the fusion of male and female gametes. Gametes to form a zygote. The fusion of male and female gametes to form a zygote, that is called fertilization process. For example, here male pollen grain, this is the pollen grain. For example, this is the pollen grain which came onto the stigma. After coming onto the stigma, that pollen grain transported into the ovary, and after coming onto the ovary, and it will fuse with the ovules. Here ovules are already discussed. The process of arrangement of ovules within the ovary. Means within the ovary or in this ovary, ovules are present, and to this ovules, means here this pollen grain should be fused with this female gamete. Here this is the ovule, and this pollen grain comes here, and this fuses with each other to form a zygote. This is called a zygote. Diploid zygote is formed. This process of formation of this diploid zygote, and this is called as a fertilization process. This is called a fertilization process. Here, the fusion of both male gamete and female gamete inside the ovary to form a zygote, that is called as a fertilization process. And clear? And it is called fertilization. And what happens after fertilization? The fertilization occurred, okay. Fertilization occurred, okay. And after the fertilization, what happens means the main process of formation of fruits occurs after fertilization. And after fertilization, the ovary becomes into fruit. After fertilization, after fertilization, ovary becomes into fruit. Ovary becomes fruit. Ovary becomes into fruit. Means here this ovary becomes into fruit, and the ovules which are present inside the ovary becomes to seeds. Here ovules becomes into seeds. So what do we need for the next generation? Seeds are to be required for the production of more number of plants. Here in this angiospermic plants produces flowers, produces male and female reproductive organs, and by the production of male and female reproductive organs, what occurs? So pollination occurs. By the pollination, fertilization process occurs. By the fertilization process, so the fruit formation occurs. By the formation of fruit, the seed formation occurs. And if we take the seed and we sow the seed, so a more number of plants develops. And this is the cycle of all living organisms, or this is the life cycle of an angiospermic plant. If you observe clearly, plant developed, flowers developed, male female reproductive parts developed, and fusion of male and female developed, or female gametes occurred, fertilization process occurred, fruit formation occurred, and seed formation occurred. And if you take the seed and sow the seeds, and few more new plants develop, and that process or that cyclic process occurs in each and every living organisms. We are in the case of plants we are discussing. And now after the development of fruits, there are two kinds of fruits are there mainly. What are those basic kinds of fruits, and what are they mean? So true fruits and false fruits. Two kinds of fruits. Number one, true fruit. True fruits. What are true fruits? The fruits which develop from the ovary are called as true fruits. Are called true fruits. And next one, false fruit. Here true fruits, for example, mango. Example, mango and banana. You can take some the examples as true fruits. And here coming out the false fruit. The fruits which develop other than the ovary, or the fruits which develop from the other part of the flower, for example, thalamus. Here, the fruits which develop from the fruits which develop from other parts of the flower, sometimes including the ovary or other than the ovary, and the fruits which develop from other parts of the flower, and those kinds of fruits are called as false fruits. Example, apple. Other parts of the flower means, for example, this is the ovary and this is the thalamus, base of the ovary. A bulged portion is present that is called thalamus, and this thalamus becomes into fruit, and those are called as false fruits. They are called as false fruits, and true fruits and false fruits. And here, now let us see what is the main definition of the fruit. So let us see. Fruit means The ripened ovary is nothing but fruit. Ripened ovary is called fruit. The ripened ovary is called fruit. And the seeds, ovules are nothing but seeds. Seeds. The fertilized ovules. Fertilized ovules are called seeds. And this is about the complete description of an angiospermic plant. And tomorrow we'll discuss with a new concept. Thank you. Phone is correct.